Welcome to the Berks Homes podcast, the business of building homes. I'm Katie. I'm here with my brother Ben, and today we want to talk about the top 3 ways. You're going to have to help me out here. The top 3 ways that we are benefiting from the changes back to centralizing last year.
Yeah.
Say it better.
That's good enough. Top 3 ways centralizing our operations helped our company. Something like that. Yeah.
Great job.
So we kind of just literally latched onto this 3 minutes ago because even though we love to be prepared, sometimes we feel like we're better off being creative in the mood in the moment.
Mm-hmm. This is inspired.
Yeah. So short and to the point, what comes to mind when you look at last year, the changes we made in terms of how we, going back, let's just refresh the audience here. We went from a decentralized model with 3 offices, with 3 general managers making all the decisions individually at their level.
The local level.
So if they had a community in their region, they were in charge of all those decisions, right? And then over the last 8 months, whatever it was, we made everything a lot flatter and coming up to basically me in terms of operations. Split off all the support services that report to you now, and anything having to do with selling, building, warranting homes is under me. Actually, warranty's under you, but yeah, it's a support service. But still, building and selling.
Building and selling.
So, in your mind, what was the big aha moment when either we were considering it or we were in the middle of doing it? What was the biggest benefit that you saw it could be? And then is that true now?
Yes, that is a great question because at first looking at it, because we wrote it out on a board.
Yeah.
And looking at it, my first thought was, wait, is this too easy?
Yeah.
And then my second practical thought was, this will make us be able to move so much more quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely has played out in a bunch of ways. So the reason I thought that is because the communication between all of the layers took a long time before. And then looking at it laid out on the board, it's like there were 4 people that needed to talk, and then anything could happen. Anything
could happen because you're waiting for the baton to be passed in terms of a decision. And, it's our company, the family business. And I know for you and I, we didn't feel like we were even involved in any of those important decisions.
Selling and building houses.
Yeah. And it was not that we need to be, but it just didn't seem like we were able to really, push out the way that we wanted things to be done in a concise way.
Yeah.
It's not about control as much as clarity, and...
Well, and focus. The things that are important to us weren't things that were being paid attention to.
Not just us, the vast majority of the people here.
Yeah. I mean, we work at a home building company.
Yeah.
And so the most conversation should be about that.
Right.
Should be about the product. Should be about the customer and then the building the house and getting it to them in time. I mean, there's not much more that should be, paid attention to.
Right.
Than that. So
we had 3 words or phrases, right? The benefits of centralizing decision making, communication, and the speed of doing business. Right. And so you kind of said all of that in one.
Oh.
A little bit.
I meant ultimately the speed.
Yeah. But they do tie in.
But they all tie together.
Right.
I feel like it is kind of like a, 1, 2, 3 step.
Yeah.
Solve.
So you thought it was possible as we were laying out these plans, and you almost said, is this too easy? Well, in a way, yeah, it was too easy because it's difficult to change anything.
Yeah.
However, in actual execution, it is very simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. Right?
That is a better way.
And because we were not taking resources away from our customers, anything on the front lines. They have maybe access to more resources than they used to.
They do, because another side benefit that popped up from this is workload sharing.
Yeah.
The fact that any region that needs support in a certain aspect of the home building process can get help from other regions because it's all being done the same. It's all funneling through the same people.
Yeah.
And so if someone needs to get help, if there's a pinch point,
right,
resources from other regions or back office support can help.
Right. And we had this ability now where, because we aren't taking the resources away from the front line, you'd think, oh, well, there's so many houses that, a few people need to keep track of. It's not really the case. It's actually a lot easier than you think. You're just adding zeros to somebody's normal workload, but they don't have to focus on all the aspects of that home because all that stuff happens still at the sales rep, sales management level locally, the superintendent and production manager level locally, and all the other stuff that bubbles up is pretty easy and well distributed across the team to support all those people. So I think that at least I feel very comfortable because now I have 4 people reporting to me and I know enough to be dangerous about each community and managing, expectations on the manager level is just a lot easier. One voice for all the teams, production has really sped up in terms of their communication. I'm not inserting myself at all. I have John D'Angelo, director of production or construction out there. Everybody in the field reports to him. It's his message that, he's been working on for years, but he's been able to implement things a lot faster and, kind of raise the bar in terms of that stuff.
So that you're touching a little bit on all 3 again, but from your perspective, if we start with decision making, like what about that has become easier or what's working?
I think it's really just taking the best of everything. And, when I say the best of, I mean the people that are in charge of those areas and saying, what we want to do, go do it. The people that report to me, at least, they're only asking me things that is just like semantics. We're not talking about giant philosophical, like we got to work stuff out. Right. Like, do we believe in this? It's not like that. It's just like little tweaks here and there. But I don't even have to hear about all, the normal day-to-day stuff generally. We're trying to solve process issues exclusively. Yeah. And not talk through issues with trades or buyers or anything like that.
Right. So as far as the decision-making process, it's more on removing roadblocks and becoming more efficient than it is addressing things at...
so not like firefighting.
Right.
Whereas, I think that the previous general manager role, that seemed like a big thing for them.
Well, from looking at it from an outside perspective, for me, I'm going, okay, so you are actually setting this up in a way that you don't need to negotiate anymore. So what it seemed like before is a lot of the decision making was based on, this is what I want on one extreme, and someone else saying, well, this is what I want on the other extreme. And it was a negotiation to meet somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And it doesn't seem to be like that anymore with everyone focused on the same end goal.
Yeah, there's always a calibration, like in terms of the people on our operations team. It's myself, Steph, VP of Sales, John D'Angelo, the Director of Construction, Sarah, the Director of Land, and then Amy, the Director of Office Management. So all those 4 people, everything runs through them. And if anything, this is just, I think, a healthy thing. I came upon this situation. This is what I think we should do, Ben. What do you think? Mm-hmm. And it's like 90% of the time, we're right there. I don't need to, I think that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. There's always time to calibrate and say, did you think about this? Mm-hmm. That's actually what I would prefer. Okay, I can see that. Let's go do it. Mm-hmm. But that's a far cry from saying, I believe in this. Yeah. You believe in this. And we're both sacrificing something heavily. Yeah. To get to this decision. Mm-hmm. And then not just the decision, but the execution. Right?
That's huge.
So you have to talk about the speed when we talk about that whole process. Like
not just
we got
the fact
to
that it's a decision, but how quickly.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I can't think of this scenario. Steph just asked me something this morning. Mm-hmm. She said, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but, and then she went down and said, her philosophy on pricing something. Mm-hmm. And I said, actually, I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was something because it was like a perceived value thing as opposed to the real cost. Mm-hmm. And I said, no. I said, no, that's the right way to do it, or that's how I would do it. Mm-hmm. And it was a 30-second conversation, Right. But the calibration is what I'm saying. She didn't know exactly how I would feel. So now she's got that in her mind moving forward. That's not a discussion next time, probably.
Exactly.
And I think it's a level of maturity that's required to handle that kind of decision for those people that are running things, where they have to know that I'm always going to trust them no matter what. And even if we do like a circle back or a debrief on a situation that maybe they made a decision that I wouldn't make and it didn't go well, that I'm still going to be like, it wasn't the wrong decision. Yeah. You had all the facts that you thought you needed, blah, blah, blah. You and I are both in agreement now that this is how the decision probably should have been made. And that's so rare.
Usually, I'm watching people navigate things like that. I'm going, oh, I'm so glad they're in charge of it, because I would not have thought to do it that way.
Well, that's really, this can all be summed up by all the things that you're told constantly in business, which is you have to find the right people for the role that fit your culture. That can't be stressed enough.
I think we do end up saying in every podcast that we talk about business that it comes back to people.
Well, it does. I just bought a book that I can't wait to read. It's called the 7 Frequencies of Connection or Communication. And it was just fascinating. Like I heard this guy on a podcast, and
who is it?
It's Erwin McManus.
Oh, okay.
I think he's in LA. He's like a pastor of a big church, but he's got some wild ideas, and really what he is he's just a great communicator.
Okay.
And I was really fascinated by what he was talking about. And I was like, well, it's just just another thing. It's like another confirmation about you just can't be successful. You could be the smartest human in the world, and you can't do it by yourself or with a small group of people.
Exactly.
And highly functional organizations, whether it's a church or a business or a nonprofit, they all trust each other and they help each other and they care about each other. And usually it comes from deeply connecting with those people on a human level. And I know for me, it's something that's hard for me as a introverted, recluse sometimes, where I'm like, actually my happy place is just not seeing anybody.
Right.
But, there's nothing better. I don't care who you are. If you have a connection with somebody or a conversation that leads to something meaningful, you're going to produce better results in life. It's not near as fun to go at it alone. It's not fun to win alone either.
Oh, exactly. I think that's been something that's very much encouraging and exciting about the past couple months, is having so many more people involved. Even though we're talking about kind of flattening the layers of the organization and less people, to negotiate with, we actually are bringing more and more people into the conversations when we're setting things up or when we're trying to problem solve. Even just having our new monthly meetings, we are setting aside time for special projects to bring in as many subject matter experts as needed to do any projects that we're doing. We didn't collaborate at that level before.
Well, and isn't it really naive of us and arrogant of us to think that we could possibly be really good at all of it?
Exactly.
Yeah. And we're not, obviously. We like to throw that out the door right away. But it's not just saying it, it's handing that kind of whatever power or authority over and saying,
ownership too.
Yeah, this is your area, and I really trust you to make the right decision. My job is to remove roadblocks within the organization to allow you to shine, let you cook a little, and make sure that everybody that you're interacting with has the same mindset.
Yeah.
You know, that of respect and concern for everybody that they're dealing with, and that they understand the role that they're dealing with. And so it's just a matter of organizational health.
What is?
Just, all these things. You can make these changes in function, but you have to really consider the people that are involved. You can't just make the changes.
So ultimately what we're saying is, yes, there are 3 things that came out of this centralization we made last year, but really what it comes down to is letting great people do a great job.
Yeah, letting/empowering, and one thing that I feel like I can do a better job at always is recognizing, great work in somebody's presence, just being like, hey, you know what? Like, I just really appreciate the job that you've been doing. Like this thing that you just did, that was really impressive. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I have a very secure sense of pride. But when somebody tells me that I did something well, I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Want to hear that?
Yeah, everybody likes to be told that they're awesome. So I think that for me, the number one thing probably is just that general communication. But communication can only get better if it's quick and clear. Like the decision making is clear who it is. And trust me, we got a long way to go on a lot of stuff. But the initial, feedback or observations have certainly benefited these 3 areas.
Yeah,
Big
exactly.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, we're not at the point where we'll see the fruit of any of this immediately. But
yeah, I think it's a 24-month, marathon.
Yeah, but I was going to say, but I feel like we kind of are.
Yeah.
Seeing it an immediate impact in momentum in just all 3 of these areas have made a lot. I do like you clarifying this simple piece to it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it has simplified what we do.
Yeah.
And that is our end game right now.
Right. There's levels too. I mean, I think you have a lifetime of pursuing the ability to literally go to every human in the organization and that they really know how they impact the bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's a lifelong pursuit. You're always creating new roles and or responsibilities. And, as those things change, it can be really hard to be like, do you know how important you are when you're not, a salesperson selling a house or superintendent building a house?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the support people, right? I think that's like the highest level of achievement is if you can have every single person in your company say, I know exactly how I impact the company.
I really think that should be
that's like
our
a pursuit.
Goal
That's
over the
pursuit.
next 2 years.
Because, what does that do then? That means that you're probably highly documented in terms of your processes, right? That means that there's a clear outcome, not just on an annual basis for people's jobs, but like a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like what does today's success truly look like? If you know what it is before you start the day, then that's like top level stuff, right?
Yeah. How do you win the day?
How do you win the day? Can you define it for me? And so what I'm saying is there's probably a lot of people, including myself right now, who don't know exactly what that I won the day success is. And that's okay, but we should try to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
Really should. Anybody who wants to talk about that, let me know. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great conversation because I do feel like it's a lot easier for me to talk about it for other people.
Sure.
But
ours is a little elusive.
Right. Well, the higher you get in leadership too, it's a little more ambiguous.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you're Steph, who just wins every day somehow. How many times can we shout out Steph?
Every week that we are selling
a ton of
ugly
homes.
specs.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have anything ugly. Just you mean just like ones that have been out there for a while.
I don't mean the product.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful finished product. Everything looks fabulous. Everybody's doing a great job with it. I just mean ugly inventory because it's sitting
Old
sometimes.
inventory.
But we're almost through all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great job, everybody.
It's been remarkable in the midst of kind of a nasty winter weather-wise, and it just seems like it's been 7 years since we saw the sun.
The long, hard winter.
Yeah.
Like from Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Yes, we're on the prairie right now. And that's a hard environment to sell in. I mean, I think winter, the seasonal depression, whatever you want to call it, like that's a real thing that affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it affects their desire to go look at stuff.
I was going to say, can you imagine wanting to go tour some homes over the past couple of weekends? It's just been so miserable.
Yeah, just like even wanting to, get your boots on and walk into a house that, it's muddy everywhere outside. And that's what we do in Pennsylvania. It's just the way it is. That we're not the only people that deal with it. But I say all that in spite of that stuff, we're selling what we need to sell, and it's been really cool. And I definitely attribute that to the changes we made.
I do too. It all culminates. Think about one person to go to top decision making. One person to communicate with when it comes to the philosophy of selling.
Right.
And then that one person is doing the same communication up and down.
Right.
Same message every single day.
Yeah.
Over a few months' time has made a tremendous impact.
That's very powerful. What are your other thoughts about this? Do you have any?
I know we were just talking about like the top 3 things that we noticed, but there's so much more to come with this.
Right.
And I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of watch the flywheel effect. To me, the longest time it's going to take is this beginning for us to see the positive outcomes. And the fact that we already are makes me super excited and hopeful for the gains that we'll get over time. So I just believe that we'll become more consistent, more efficient, better at communication, better at that decision making and alignment. I think that's probably I know we've talked about alignment for years now, and it's like, oh, it's happening. It's actually happening.
Real alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't underestimate the power of kind of like that nonverbal alignment, right?
Yeah.
You're working alongside of somebody completely separately though, right? And you know where you're going.
Yeah. Well, what's cool if you think about like real life examples, we always know that John Wisner is going to say, must you do that custom request?
Right.
And we do know that maybe Steph will say, can we do this custom request?
Right.
They both are at a great spot because they've done a really good job collaborating, communicating, and understanding where they can push the line or not either way.
Right.
And they're both being very respectful about it.
Yeah.
And looking out for both the customer and the company.
Right.
And so, and that's just one little thing where custom requests have been such an issue for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And now, instead of it being a boxing match every time, it's a true collaboration, and they really are on the same page of which ones that we're going to push through and which ones not to even ask about. Because, at this point, if sales is asking for it, it's probably needed.
We should consider it.
Yeah. Because before, anything would have just been thrown at the wall.
Yeah.
And now it's thoughtful, deliberate communication because Steph's listening.
Right. Well, there's new information sometimes that comes up, right?
Yeah.
This is what's changed since we talked about this last time.
Yeah. I just think it's cool. Like,
it is.
Just that one example is everybody getting aligned.
Right. Right.
To the point where it's not a tense subject anymore. You can even, like, it's funny to bring it up.
Right. We're addressing the issue and has nothing to do with the people involved.
Exactly.
It's just the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I can't not say something about the Eagles.
I was waiting for this.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why I have my coat here.
Yeah, hopefully we can.
But one of the things that is, I mean, I'm just, if there has been any content flowing through my phone for over a week, it's all Eagles all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And this is when you have that special period of time where your fan base gets to be inundated with all the behind the scenes stuff, right? And all the stuff that, you never heard during the season, and they're doing all these recap videos and mic'd up and everything. And the one theme that they had was, and then all these players came out and said the same thing about being so connected. And it was the coach, Nick Sirianni, constantly mentioned, together. And
cool.
It was like they had adversity in the beginning of the year. They started 2-2.
Yeah.
And then won 16 of 17 in a row, or 16 out of 17 games to end the year. And he never stopped that message. And, we don't have like a season. We have the rest of our lives to do this. But it's such a great reminder because of how critical it is to, like, execute on the same message the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what happens, let's just say, okay, down sales month or down gross profit month or whatever. We're going to say the same thing. We're not changing it up. Right. It's still communicate. It's still, support each other, all this stuff. And I'm always drawing parallels from sports.
Yeah.
Because I think the messages are the same. Sports business.
It's a game.
You're all you're all trying to get to a goal. And our timeline's much longer, obviously, but it's always the same message. And you could see that in the way that the players said their pregame speeches and stuff. It was all the same stuff. It was just like said a little bit differently. The message was the same. And so this kind of like centralization allows that a lot more.
And it feels like it.
And so maybe we'll win a Super Bowl someday.
The Super Bowl of home building.
Super Bowl of home building, yes.
World champions.
Yeah. So there has to be an MVP of this conversation.
Yes. Who gets the shout out?
Yeah, it's Jalen Hurts, obviously. No employees this week. Sorry, guys.
It's all about the Eagles.
It's all about the Eagles. What an incredible year.
It does make me a little sad every time when it's over.
Yeah, I mean, like yesterday,
oh.
Today's Monday, we couldn't record on Friday, but yesterday it was weird.
The first weekend.
There was just a lot of people kind of staring at stuff.
Guess I'll watch
hanging
some
around.
more reels about it.
Yeah. That's what Samantha, my wife, said yesterday. She's like, "Are you still watching Eagles stuff?" I was like, that was like 3 hours yesterday. It was like this loop of things. It's so ridiculous. But anyway, that's what we do here. Do you have a challenge? It's okay if you don't.
I don't think I do right now. Take a rest, guys.
Yeah. Take it easy for a week.
Yeah.
Do your jobs.
We didn't record a podcast or publish one last week because I had influenza A.
Yeah.
So...
Well, you look pretty good for that.
Oh, well, it's been
do you feel pretty good now?
I'm fine now, but it really it was
terrible
cooked there for a minute. But so now I'm valuing, health and rest for a minute.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you don't want to be sick for our trip to Vegas next week.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're leaving in less than a week.
Yeah.
We'll have to, that's probably going to be,
The next time we come back.
yeah, an episode when we get back. We'll have to talk about all
Things that we learned.
Yeah, builder show.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, this was good.
Yeah. Great job coming up with a topic.
Yeah.
And very inspired.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
All right. See you.